You were trained to remember the wrong things, not the truth, not what matters, but what serves the story, the one they handed you. You were told memory is sacred, that it defines who you are, that forgetting is failure. But what if they were lying? What if forgetting is freedom? Because your memory isn't a library. It's a haunted temple, filled with whispers, spirits, echoes that wear your face. And sometimes, to remember who you really are, you have to forget who they told you to be. Let's begin. Firstly, realize memory isn't truth. It's trauma looped. Memory is not a camera. It's a ritual of reconstruction. It edits, it distorts, it confabulates, especially when things hurt. When trauma hits, your mind doesn't store the past. It shatters it. Like a mirror dropped in a sacred hall. The pieces don't disappear. They reorganize. Each fragment carries an emotion, a flash, a frozen self. Little autonomous spirits of survival. Some are exiles, carrying the pain. Some are protectors, armoring up, ready to fight or flee. Others are managers, elegant liars that keep the system running. They each have their own memories, their own beliefs, their own voice. And when one takes over, you're not remembering the past. You're becoming it. That anxious spiral, that angry outburst, that sudden silence in the face of love, that might not be you. That might be a part, playing out a story it believes is still happening. In occult terms, that's possession. Trauma loops aren't just psychological, they're spiritual recursions. You become a priest to a forgotten wound. And every time it speaks through you, you think it's truth. But it's just memory. Looped. Now we must also realize that collective memory is cultural spellcraft. And if you think that's just happening inside you, think again. Your mind isn't the only thing being haunted. Your culture is too. Collective memory is a curated hallucination. History isn't what happened. It's what we chose to ritualize. Every nation, every ideology, every flag is a memory palace, built to enshrine glory and erase guilt, to canonize the conqueror, to mythologize the massacre. We were trained to forget certain names, trained to repeat others like mantras. You were taught to remember the hero, not the heretic, the founder, not the enslaved. You carry cultural parts too. The loyal worker, the patriotic son, the ashamed inheritor of bloodlines and sins. These aren't your memories, but they live in you. Because repetition, emotion, and authority is all it takes to encode a memory. And if you do it at scale, that's called propaganda, or in older language, spellcraft. We are spellbound by stories we never chose, ritualized into obedience, programmed through pageantry. You weren't just taught what to believe. You were taught what to remember. And forgetting that programming is the first act of psychic rebellion. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time when memory wasn't passive. It wasn't trauma. It wasn't programming. It was sacred architecture. The Hermetic magicians of the Renaissance built memory palaces, temples in the mind, filled with symbolic rooms and cosmic imagery. Giordano Bruno, the great heretic, filled his with erotic symbols, stars, and spirits. Not for trivia, for transformation. Because memory wasn't storage. It was a pathway to the divine. A mirror of the cosmos. A way to shape the mind through image, symbol, and spatial intention. Neuroscience now confirms what the ancients already knew. Memory is strongest when bound to space, emotion, and symbol. Psychological and modern therapeutic systems do the same. We meet our different constituent parts that make up the so-called self in internal spaces, forests, chambers, altars, to renegotiate their roles, to witness their pain, to change the architecture. It's done through self-guided visualizations. But occultists have been doing this for centuries. In both magic and therapy, the temple of memory can be rewritten, and you get to decide which statues stay and which are removed from the altar. There are spirits that live in your memory. But here's the part they never told you. You don't just remember events. You remember spirits. In ancient traditions, a spirit wasn't always external. It was a force, a demon, a current, a being made of memory and meaning. To invoke a spirit was to call forth a pattern, to wear a god for a while, to speak as if possessed. Sound familiar? The moment when a part steps into the driver's seat and you fade into the background, your rage. That's a protector spirit, forged in fire, fed by memory. Your shame? An exile, curled in a forgotten corner of your temple, still 5 years old. These are spirits. Not supernatural, but symbolic. Charged clusters of emotion, belief, and memory, acting autonomously. They're not demons. They're you, just dismembered. And to invoke them is to remember. This is why rituals work. This is why we burn names. This is why we cast circles, draw sigils, or sit with a part and say, I see you. Possession isn't a myth. It's a misattributed psychology. You're being possessed by your own unprocessed memories, given a voice, a name, a mask. And every time you obey without question, that spirit lives on. So what's the antidote? Unblending, witnessing, banishing. In other words, forgiving memory the right to rule you. We can view forgetting as banishing, and this is the most dangerous and powerful spell of all. Forgetting. Not the accidental kind. Not the slow erosion of time. I mean, active forgetting. the deliberate erasure of what no longer serves. Nietzsche called it a strength, the mark of vitality, the ability to say, "This no longer belongs to me." Let's call it unblending. You don't destroy the part. You invite it to step back. In chaos magic, it's called banishing. You erase the symbol, break the loop, burn the sigil. Neuroscience? It calls it reconsolidation and pruning. Memories can be rewritten, especially when combined with emotional activation and reappraisal. So yes, forgetting is scientific, psychological, and deeply magical. Because you're not erasing history, you're reclaiming authorship. The difference between trauma and memory is that trauma runs you. Memory answers to you. You are not obligated to carry every stone in the temple. You're allowed to rebuild it. Remember, you are not the archive. You are the author. You were trained to remember the wrong things, to carry what was never yours, to be loyal to ghosts, to mistake pain for proof. But memory is not truth. It's pattern. And the truth is this: you are not the archive. You are the author. You are the temple architect, the inner magician, the witness who names, and the will that releases. You don't have to keep the spirits. You don't have to keep the story. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do with it. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is forget. If there is a memory you're ready to release, write it below, give it a name, then let it go. The forgetting is the spell. Until next time.